Mother, tell your children not to walk my way. Tell your children not to hear my words, what they mean.
Hello there, Sir from 17 once again, bringing you the second section to Interval 4 in my F.E.A.R 3 Insane Difficulty video walkthrough. And obviously because I'm walking, because it's all dark and all colour saturated, it means that this is another one of Day One Studios' attempts to shit you up, and for the majority of them before Chapter 5 you are completely safe through all of them, so don't be afraid, don't be nervous, nothing's going to hurt you. As soon as you can move again you are vulnerable, and there's going to be some psychos in this place, so pay attention and navigate this maze-like apartment complex. But instead of talking about the gameplay, there is a couple of challenging things coming up, but for the majority of it, it's pretty simple. I'm going to carry on about a topic I was on the last video because it's an important subject. And for anybody that doesn't know what that subject is, it is the majesty that is the human centipede. And I'm not going to recap on what it is for people that haven't seen the other video. You'll just have to watch it because, I mean, the key's in the fucking title. But the film itself is very strange, and it's not strange just because it's got a crazy scientist sewing people's asses to people's faces. It's strange because I thought it was just going to be shock horror, you know, gore porn. I just thought it'd be torture porn, as people call like the hostels and things like that. And I thought it would be depravity for the sake of depravity, and it really isn't. The director and the writer is something Hike. I think it's something like Mike Hike or something ridiculous. I don't know his name. It's probably some hardcore Human Centipede fan who's gonna be like, "He's called this, you dumbass. You should know that." But he's a lot more subtle than you think he would be, considering the subject matter. And I don't know if that's because he didn't want it to get completely banned, or if it's just the envision that he originally had for it. But you never see anything too gratuitous. You never see, you know, like full-on ass shots and people getting sewn to ass or anything like that. You don't see anybody getting shit on or anyone's mouth being filled with shit or anything like that. It's not as visual as you'd imagine it to be, and it's nowhere near as shocking as the premise is. It's actually quite tasteful if, you know, people sharing shit can be tasteful. It's as tasteful as you could have done it, and it really surprised me for that. But by no means is this a good film. That's the first thing I'm going to say. It can be quite tense, it can be quite emotional at times if you're invested with the characters. I do believe females who watch it, I know that sounds, you know, really, really fucking, I am a robot, I do not have understand human emotion. But if you are feminine and you watch it, this is not to say that females are weaker, but I do think if you're a girl, it's probably going to affect you a little bit more because there's two girls there, they're both friends, and what they go through is obviously horrific, and it's kind of tragic and all that good stuff, and that is pretty much the emotional depth to be taken from this film. But if you don't feel it, it's just an hour and 40 minutes of laughing, because that's pretty much what I did. It was almost a comedy for me because I just didn't expect it to be what it was. And there's so many holes, man. I know it's in the script, I know it's to create tension, and I know everything is done deliberately to elicit a response from the viewer, but at the same time, it harks back to the movie cliches. It's like, why do they run upstairs? Why do they do all that kind of stuff? You know, why do they say these things and then they fucking all that kind of garbage? It's it's obviously to create tension, it's obviously for a desired effect, but you just wouldn't do it. I mean, the biggest thing that gets me is the two girls who were tourists in Germany, they don't speak a lick of German, which makes me wonder why the fuck are you going there and backpacking, driving through rural Germany. It's just like you'd at least want somebody with you who either knew the lingo, who lived there or something like that. And I know not everybody has that available, but you pay for a fucking guide or something of that nature. But I'm going to have to put this on hold again because this is another challenging section, which I think this is a flawless run of this, and I did it first time, because what happens is every one of those holes is a potential spawn point for a psycho. And what they're obviously going to do is they spawn all around you, you're in a very claustrophobic basement, and they're all going to try and kill you. And what I do is I kite them. I run a lovely circle, and if you sprint, you are far too fast for the enemy to catch, and you can reload while you're sprinting, and all you have to do is turn around and nail them with a shotgun. And if you keep doing what I do, I don't even think I get punched. So if you're struggling on this section, watch it, repeat it, you shouldn't have any trouble. But anyhow, the car breaks down, on this rural lane because they hit a pothole. And it's actually the best part of the film, in my opinion, because this German guy pulls up, and if you're thinking stereotypical, lives with his mother who is actually a corpse and in his basement, fucking necrophying, or just completely decomposing because she's been there a while, and he's using every new hole that the maggots burrow in her as an orifice for his sexual pleasure kind of person. He is the slimiest, most rapey looking person you could imagine. He's pasty, he's fat, he's balding, he's got jam jar glasses, he's got like spots on his face and craziness like that. He's just horrific. By the way, this is the creeper. What he does is he makes a lot of noise. You'll see a little glitter of cinders as he walks towards you, and all you do is you slow time. He appears in front of you, and then you attack him. You can actually knife him if you want to save your ammo, because all it takes is one bit of damage to make him retreat. And you can't move, you can't run, and there's nothing you can do until this guy grabs you. Because I don't think you're supposed to defend against him. I think you're supposed to let him get you. So don't worry about it there. That's for something later on. But anyhow, back to this dirty bastard in the car, and he pulls up next to them, and he puts his window down, they put their window down, and they've got like the German fucking phrase book, to help them speak and everything. And the girl just does the basic like, oh, we're from America and our car's broken down and we need can we use your phone please and call the travel company so we can get a new car please, and all this kind of stuff. And the guy's speaking fluent German and it comes up in subtitles, and it is the funniest thing I have seen in a while, because the girls are asking for help, legitimately worried about the situation they're in, and this guy's just kind of like, oh, you American girls, eh? You been in those pornos? I saw you earlier. Can I fuck you? You want to suck my dick? And he's just being really crude and really offensive, and they obviously know they're not going anywhere with him because he's just saying all this ridiculous stuff they don't understand. And one of the girls realises that he said fucking, so they wind the window up, and he still stays parked there staring at them as they're looking straight forward. And every time they look at him, he starts licking his lips. And I were in tears, mate. It was so funny. And I know it's not intended to be, and some people might think that that's actually, a really creepy and chilling moment, but I thought it was brilliant. And anyhow, he drives away. He's a bit of a red herring because you think he's going to, axe murder them in the jungle and then bury them in the forest, should I say. But he doesn't. He drives away, and they start walking, and it starts raining, and they basically come across this house in the middle of the woods. And this house is nice and white. It's a really long bungalow with no second floor, obviously. And they knock on the door, and this dude opens it. This pretty, intense-looking dude wearing a lovely, luxurious bathrobe. And I'm going to have to go on a little hold again. This section here is kind of challenging, but if you run into this building that I did at the start, it's absolute piss, because none of the soldiers will rush you, and you can pick them off from this vantage point. Job's done. Anyhow, and he lets them in because they want to use his phone, and they enter his house, and his house is really Spartan, it's really modern, it's, completely, it's got no touches of anything homely, it's just completely it's sterile and white-walled, and there's these massive canvas artworks of these two conjoined fetuses, and it's just weird. He's got all ornamental candles and hardwood floors, and he leads them into his living room, and he asks them if they want a drink, and straight away, you're in the middle of Germany, your car's broke down, you've just had a close encounter with, an unevolved psychopath, and you've now been invited into a pretty intense-looking dude's really posh house, and he offers you a drink. He says the only thing he has is water. You don't take that drink. It's like, I don't need a date rate sandwich with a cocktail stick in it with a little leaflet saying, this is a date rate sandwich, for me to know I'm about to eat a date rate sandwich. And these girls, like silly bastards, start drinking this water that he gives them, and he's put Rohypnol in it. And one of the girl, I don't think she touches it. She actually smashes the glass, and he gets really mad, and they want to get out of there because they're kind of thinking he's a nutter, because he fucking is. And the girl starts getting drowsy because she's been dosed, and her friend is like, come on, we've got to go. And anyhow, he comes back with a needle and ends up injecting her, and she wakes up in a hospital bed downstairs. And there's also a Japanese tourist with them who's also strapped in this bed. And they're all strapped in they're on gurneys, they're strapped in gurneys with, medical restraints and everything, and they're hooked up to all machines and whatnot, and he comes down in a doctor's coat, and he gives a presentation with a fucking projector about what he's going to do to them. And that is probably the most chilling part of it for me, because psychologically, that is terrifying. Somebody telling you this depraved act that he's going to do to you, and you're completely powerless to do anything against it. But it quickly divulges into something, you know, it's an interesting, well, I say interesting, it's a deprived and crazy idea that goes pretty much nowhere, because once they're turned into the centipede, it rouses more questions than it answers, and this doctor's just insane. He's just trying to make him be like a dog. He's getting the lead person who has the mouth open a paper, and he's walking him around his garden and slapping his boot with a stick and asking him to come here and stuff. And he's treating him like his dog, because in his garden there's the grave of a 3-headed dog that he made, and he's really in love with it and he's really proud of it. And it's just his narcissism in what he's created and how proud he is at it, and they're suffering for pretty much the majority of the film. And towards the end, 2 cops from like the German police department end up turning up because the girls have gone missing. It's been reported, and a woman's heard American voices on his property, and they end up coming. And there's a couple of tense moments when he's trying to hide the fact that he doesn't want them to look around his house. He tells them that he's busy with research because he's a well-respected surgeon. And they come back with a warrant anyway because they don't believe him. And it pretty much goes to shit from there, because he asks the cops if they want a drink, and like silly bastards, one of them gets water and he's dosed it again. So one of the cops ends up in a shit situation. But it ends in a pretty shitty way, and I'm not going to spoil it for anybody that actually wants to watch it, but it's not a good film. And there's one of those really stupid and ridiculous moments that turns up towards the end, where the Japanese guy who's at the front of the centipede, he basically attacks the scientist, he attacks the doctor, the psycho-German dude, and he stabs him in the leg and in the foot with a scalpel. And this pretty much immobilises the doctor. He has to crawl, and he's as slow as the centipede then. And they try and escape, and obviously because he's cut the knees and it's quite a recent operation, and they're all sewed mouth to anus to each other, they can't move very well, it's very painful. And the staircase that leads out of the basement where he keeps them is a helical staircase. And obviously going up a helical staircase with damaged knees is agony, and the knees start bleeding, and it's just oozing blood, and the tearing the stitches, and the face starts bleeding, and it's probably the most gory part of the film, and it's not gory at all for anybody that's weak on that kind of stuff. And they go through all this suffering to climb the stairs. It's a good 5 to 10 minutes, this scene of them going up the stairs and just ripping their bodies apart to get up and escape. And they go through the front room, and they go up to a glass which she shattered earlier in a glass window, which she shattered earlier in the film, but he's already had it replaced. So they kind of get a little bit frustrated. And anyhow, the doctor, in the meanwhile, he's crawled up the stairs as well, and he kind of gets behind them. There's a good 10 yards between them. So the centipede turns around, and the Japanese guy starts going on this massive rant about how when he was, you know, in his family, he moved away from them, he didn't respect them, he didn't love them, he took for granted everything that they gave him, and he goes on, it's actually a pretty decent speech considering, and he even says even though that this guy's put him through this act of depravity and all this bullshit, he still believes that he's a human being, and he's basically slapping this immoral doctor with his moral penis. And it's a pretty good speech, and it's one of those moments where it's like, yeah dude, you do that, and all the time he's doing it holding a piece of glass, and I knew where this was going as soon as it started, and I just don't get it. And at the end of his speech, he cuts his own throat, and it just makes me think, sure, Japanese are renowned for the respect, they're renowned, you know, for their honour and all this moral code that they live by, and there's the whole, you know, fucking hirikiri or whatever it's called, where they kill themselves because they're shamed and all this kind of stuff. But that guy's gone through all the torture of surviving the operation, of being in that cage, which he doesn't let them lay down, they have to sleep on their hands and knees, which is fucking impossible if you ask me. There's a plot hole if I ever saw one. And he's gone up those stairs, ripping his knees to bits, ripping his arse to bits, and pretty much killing one of the members of the centipede, only to get to the top and kill himself when he's won. And it just pissed me off. And I know I'm probably overthinking it, but fuck it. It really annoyed me. So yeah, it's not a good film. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you like me and you'll watch anything, it's worth watching because it isn't the worst film in the world. It's just, it could have been so much more, I suspect. There's a pretty challenging section coming up, but I've just got to mention this because I read it on IMDb and it's ridiculous. Apparently, the director's already writing a sequel, and because the film was I think it got slated because it didn't show some of the things that happened, and people expected it to be, you know, like a Saw or like a Hostel and the complete shock value, and it wasn't. It was slightly more tasteful and, you know, a little bit more subtle. Well, apparently number 2 isn't, and number 2 is banned in the UK, so it's not going to get released here because it's so bad. And all I've heard is it's a guy who gets off by mutilating his penis and masturbating to deprived stuff, who watches a recording of the first human centipede and gets so obsessed by the concept of it that he wants to make his own centipede, and this time he's going to do it with 8 people. And if that wasn't enough, they've already said that you're going to see the blood, the shit, the nastiness and all the gore that the first one was missing. And I even read a part of the plot is that the guy, the last part of the centipede is a woman, and the dude puts barbed wire around his penis and rapes her. I mean, how fucking bullshit is this? And some of the early, you know, critics are basically saying there is absolutely nothing to be taken from the film as far as, you know, anything to empathise with. It's just this psycho torturing and him enjoying it. So I don't know if it's even going to get released, because there's got to be some conflict there. There's got to be something what you can humanise with. There's got to be good and bad. It can't just be you watching a guy get off on doing deprived acts, because then it just becomes obscene, because it's almost willing the audience to get off with him. And I don't know where that's going to go, but it just sounds fucking crazy. But once you've opened this door, this is going to be... I thought this was going to be a really, really hard section, but I ended up doing it first time, and it's very simple. On Fearless, I got my ass kicked here. But what I like to do, I like to stack up behind this power converter here. And what happens is the phase commander is going to power up those giant cylinders above the power station things. And when they glow, if you shoot them, they blow up. And you have to do it to 6 of them. There's 3 on each side. There's 1 that's above me, and 2 behind that, and then 3 that's to my right. And if you stay here, you can shoot the guys that flank to your left, and you can shoot every one of the cylinders when they start glowing. And you should be safe if you do this correctly, if you just keep using your slow motion and your shooting skills and this cover. It's not too bad, and as soon as all of the generators are down, it's pretty much the end of the level. So don't worry about having to save, you know, your ammo, saving your slow motion, saving your grenades. Use it all, because I don't think you get to reclaim it on the next level anyhow. But I was kind of worried about this section. I thought it was going to be tough because I had a really hard time, but it's actually very simple. Just be careful of them flanking to your right and to your left, because if they get close to you, you're going to have a real bad time. But this is the last one. Once you've shot this, it'll charge the phase commander. You'll hear him scream. And there you go. It blows up, and I do believe that stops any enemies from being able to appear now, so I think it completely gets rid of the threat. And all you have to do is run down into the bunker. There doesn't look like there's anything to find in this room, and I do try. But as always, people, thanks for watching. I hope the deprived rant and obscene storytelling of the human centipede wasn't too much for you. And you take care now.